Hey guys, Super Nintendo here, and I used to work at a retro video game store where I cleaned a lot of video games, and I decided to share some techniques with you today. I split this video up into two parts, one for beginners and then the one for advanced. I do recommend that if you've never cleaned video games before, that you use these techniques on some games that you don't care about, like sports games or something cheap that you found at Goodwill, because some of these techniques can actually ruin your games permanently. So let's start out with a basic cleaning kit. You'll need simple green cleaning solution, a spray bottle to dilute the simple green solution into, 91% or above rubbing alcohol, some adhesive remover, otherwise known as Goo Gone, a medium bristle brush, either one of these little handle things or a 99-cent toothbrush will work just fine, some cotton swabs, paper towels, and a microfiber cloth. So I use Simple Green a lot because it's non-abrasive and it gets all of the dirt, oil, and grime off of anything that you throw at it. You want to be careful not to put it on anything like leather, but that's pops up very rarely in the video game world, so I don't think you'll run into that. I did get a spray bottle. Any type of spray bottle will do. This one is really nice because I also use it for cleaning the kitchen and any other places around the house. So it'll actually last you a long time. I was actually able to buy a jug of it at the Home Depot for about $10, and that has lasted me a very, very long time. So that's what I love about it. It's got a pleasant smell. It's not going to burn your hands, so you don't have to wear gloves. So it's just a really good all-purpose cleaner rather than using alcohol on everything. So let's start out with cleaning some disc-based games. And by disc-based games, I mean anything that has a case. So this could be anything from Genesis games all the way to Nintendo Switch. It doesn't have to actually be a disc. Now, usually I check for stickers first before I start cleaning, and I try to peel them off because first, that's the easiest method. But since this one doesn't peel off, we'll resort to using Goo Gone. The Goo Gone is really greasy and will make the paper transparent, so you want to take out any inserts before applying. And you want to use it liberally and just leave it on a level surface and let it do its work. 5 to 10 minutes is good enough, but you can do it as long as you want. I usually do it for about 10 minutes because that's good enough, but you might have to repeat as needed. And while we're waiting for that to take effect, let's tackle some cartridges. So with cleaning cartridges, you want to be careful when spraying the Simple Green, because if you get it on the label while you're cleaning, it can seep in and affect the glue. But if you get a little bit on there, it's not that big of a deal if you wipe it down fast enough. But it should be noted that not all labels can withstand the scrubbing. For example, look at this Oracle of Seasons cart that I have. This isn't from cleaning, this is actually from my fingers rubbing against it while I was playing it on a Nintendo SP. Nintendo actually used a different type of paper for the Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Color labels, so they're much more prone to getting rubbed off when cleaning. So make sure you're very careful not to get too intense when you're wiping down the labels. Maybe just a little wipe of a cloth is fine. So now on to marker. This is probably the most common issue with Nintendo games. As you can see, Evans here wrote his name on there. So a lot of people would suggest Magic Eraser in this scenario, but Magic Eraser is actually fine grade sandpaper, and with frequent use, it will rub off the finer nubs off of NES games. So I strongly recommend against using the Magic Eraser for games like Nintendo 64 that already have a smooth surface that you won't notice a fine surface being removed. That's fine. But for this particular purpose, I use a cotton swab with alcohol to scrub the marker off. It does take a while depending on how old the marker is, but it's still better than the Magic Eraser. There's also a dry erase marker method, but I've never been able to get it to work, so I prefer this one instead. Now for the pins. Now this is the biggest reason games of this type don't work. Many people would blow on them, which would solve the problem for a little bit, but actually that makes it worse over time. It actually puts corrosion on there. So alcohol will clean the pins and make it work most of the time. So you want to soak a new cotton swab in alcohol and then rub the pins over and over, changing the cotton swab until it doesn't return any more dirt. You can be fairly hard on these pins, they're built to last, so don't worry about breaking those. This could take several cotton swabs depending on how dirty the game is though. So this method can be applied to any cartridge games from any NES all the way to Game Boy Advance, so feel free to use it at your leisure. Alright, now those stickers should be ready to come off, and as you can see they peel off really nice. If they don't come off the first time, you can always repeat the same method and leave it on there for a little bit while longer. But after those come off, you want to take some alcohol and put it on some paper towels, because you don't want to get the microfiber cloth with the Goo Gone because it turns it greasy permanently, and then it's just, there's no going back, and it actually transfers as you clean with more games. So you just want to make sure, even if you don't want to use a paper towel, use a separate microfiber just so that doesn't happen. So we wipe down the game case so it's not so oily, and after that we spray the case with some simple green and then brush it down. You can scrub it as much as you want or as little as you want, it just depends on how finicky you are with it. But after a couple of scrubs you can just wipe the axis down and make sure you get the inside too, because some of the liquid has a habit of getting under the plastic while you're scrubbing, and that actually will get the slipcover wet. And now, while getting the slipcover wet isn't that big of a deal, it does have a tendency to wrinkle, which personally drives me nuts. And since everything's already taken out, you might as well scrub down the inside. It's not that important, but I mean, for me, it's nice to have a completely clean game, and so that I know that all the gunk on there is mine. And then after you're sure everything is dry, put everything back and voila, very close to new game cases. Alright, that concludes part 1 for the beginners. Next week I'll do some more advanced techniques like using the heat gun to remove some labels, detailing some controllers, and of course detailing some consoles as well. So stick around. If you like these types of videos, please subscribe. I appreciate a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week.